Good morning. For today's practice, we're going to explore range of motion and stability for our arms and shoulders. So for this practice, you're going to need a yoga strap or a belt. You could use a scarf or anything like that, just something that you'll be able to hold between your arms about shoulder distance apart. If you don't have something, you can bring your thumbs together, so you're kind of creating like a goalpost type of thing, and you can move from there as well. Some people might feel like it's too close together, so a strap is nice if your arms need to be a little bit wider apart. So that can be part of your exploration as we get going. So if you need to put this on pause to grab a strap or a belt, do that, and then we'll come back and we'll get started. All right, so we're going to come down to lying on our backs. Let me go this way. So as you come down, make sure that your forehead and your chin are kind of in a line. So if the chin is much higher than the forehead, you might like to bring a small folded blanket or a flat pillow underneath your head. And I like to keep my knees bent, just that takes extra strain out of the low back and the hips. So let's just take a moment to settle. Just kind of setting a baseline where we're aware of our breath, aware of the space around us and the position of our body on the floor. And then we'll bring the arms up, holding onto the strap about shoulder distance apart. And you can just check the back of your wrists. So if they're bent, just kind of smooth it out so the back of the hand and the wrist kind of blend together. Okay. And then from here, the first movement is called arms to sky. So the arms are going to lift up, so the hands are coming towards the sky, and then back down. So it's kind of an idea of the arm bones coming out of the shoulder sockets, and then sinking back down. And with this movement, the shoulder blades lift up away from the spine as the arms lift, and as the arm bones come back down, the shoulder blades come back towards the floor. And we want to explore moving in a range where there's control and coordination, so there's not a lot of wobble. So you have control over the movement, that you can breathe with ease. And then you might also want to start to notice what's happening with the neck. So if the head is moving, if the neck is engaging up here, or if there's some strain or tension, see if you can find a range by going smaller with your movement, where that quiets down. And similarly, if you're feeling something in your back or the side of the ribs, or if the back is arching, it just may mean that you're going too far. So, or if it feels like kind of like the whole body is shuddering, again, too much, and just go a little bit softer. So this doesn't have to be a big movement to be really effective. We're just working towards improving our movement patterns so that there's control and coordination, which means stability develops, which means we'll get stronger, building more stamina, and mobility will increase as well, quieting any extraneous tension. We can do about 10 of these to start. And you might want to try this a few times throughout the day. And as it becomes easier, you could do it holding onto dumbbells. You could add, or a sandbag, adding a little bit of extra load, a little bit extra weight. So after you've done 10 from the lowered position, pause. Then we're going to start to take the arms back overhead. So I call this one arms overhead. So as the arms come back, notice what happens. Do the arms come wider? Do the elbows bend? Do the ribs poke up? And then come back to center. And let's try it again. Let's refine now. So we want to find a range where the elbows stay straight and the arms stay shoulder distance. And if it feels like the ribs are poking up and the back is arching, in order to take the arms back, go smaller. And I often tell my clients to pause right before they start to feel a really strong stretch through their ribs. So that's often an indicator that you've gone too far. know when I started doing this, my movement was teeny tiny. I really couldn't go very far without a lot of wobble. So again, the idea of control and coordination, both arms being able to move together at an even tempo, breathing with ease. So if you're holding your breath, let that be an indicator that maybe you need to invite a little bit more ease and effortlessness. So smaller movement. And if your arms go back all the way really easily, I would pause where your arms are in line with your ears and hold there for a few breaths. So if you're someone who is really mobile, or you've been diagnosed as hypermobile, I don't necessarily want to flop into the movement or go into the full range. You could apply a little bit of resistance into the strap, so kind of pull the arms a little bit so you can feel the tension. So if you're hypermobile, you want to have a little bit of tension so you can feel how the arms move in the shoulder socket. So tension actually does have a purpose, and we can learn how our body moves by experiencing what the tension feels like. And of course, if there's any strain or increase in pain, then you've gone too far. So this is why really it's an exploration, because everyone's going to be very different in terms of what they need and what's appropriate for them. So this is where you have to decide for yourself. And it might change day to day or week to week, or you're having exceptionally difficult or challenging time, it might be a little bit different than on a week where you feel really good. And after you've done about 10, you can set the strap down and give your arms a little break. So know that you can rest at any time. The next arm movement is called pull the thread. So we're going to bring the thumbs and index fingers together like you're making an OK symbol, and then the thumbs and index fingers are going to come together to kiss. So we're going to bring the arms up, bend the elbows out to the side, and then the thumbs and index fingers come together. I'm going to just settle for a moment. Now between your thumbs and index fingers, you're going to imagine you're holding an invisible thread. And then you're going to pull that thread apart, creating a straight line in the air, and then back together. We want to maintain this angle of the elbows, so it's not this happening, right? It's not the forearms moving, but it's the upper arms, the arm bone moving in your shoulder socket. So the arms come wide, pulling the thread, and back together. And so you're just watching and breathing. So we want to try to keep that line as straight as possible. So if it kind of bows out at the end, then maybe just go a little bit less so the line can stay straight. I'll do about 10 of these. And again, if something feels uncomfortable, if pain is increasing, go smaller. In any of these movements, if you can't do it without the pain increasing, it just might mean that's not the most appropriate exercise for you right now. And in which case, let's talk so we can find something that does work for you. Okay. After you've done about 10, then we're going to start at this beginning position, but we're going to rotate the arms now so the elbows are pointing towards the knees. And it might feel for some people that there's a lot of compression in the chest. So if the hands aren't quite touching, if the arms stay a little bit further apart, that's okay. So from here, we're going to pull the thread again so the arms come wide. And often, I see this a lot with my clients and my students, is what will happen is people start to rotate their arms. So they keep the elbows, or they keep the upper arms tucked in, and they pull from their forearms, and so the upper arms start to turn out. And we don't want that to happen. We want the whole arm to move wide, and then back together. So it's not the elbows coming out, it's the upper arms moving wide. And the hands don't necessarily have to touch in the middle. Again, straight line, control and coordination, breathing with ease. Spine is neutral, legs are quiet. Neck and shoulders neutral and quiet. This can start with 10 kind of as a baseline. And so if it's a challenge to get to 5, then you work with maybe 4 or you work with 5. And if 10 feels really easy, then maybe you repeat the sequence twice. Or maybe you do 15. But doing like 50 or 60 I would say would be overdoing it. More isn't always more. I like to kind of, less is more. Move really well, quality over quantity. And then you can rest. So there we go. 4 movements. Let's review really quickly. Arms to sky. Arms overhead. Pull the thread 1. And pull the thread number 2. So this is an easy sequence that you can do lying on the floor or lying on your bed. And then you can come up to sitting or come up to standing. And just notice how the arms feel. So have fun exploring, see what comes up for you, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.